Welcome to Bloom Today. We have a victorious show for you. We're going to be talking about why real men don't cry.
Hi, I'm Paula Wallace, president of Bloom in the Dark, and this is
Ginny Priz, the single-handed serenity coach. Welcome to Bloom Today, where we talk about internal and external brokenness and how you can heal,
so that you can use the fertilizer of your past to bloom today. Hello, everybody. Today we're talking about why real men don't cry, or the fact that real men don't cry. Or wait a second, how about women? Do real women cry?
I hope so.
Or we might be fakes.
I might not, might not be a woman. No. I'm pretty sure that crying has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not I'm a real woman or men are real men.
No, but it's a fun thing discussing emotions, which obviously crying is a more dramatic emotion.
Sure.
And
but for men specifically, they get a whole lot of flack with their emotions when they're feeling them or when they're expressing them. A lot of times our society does not want anything to do with that. You know, why don't you man up? You know, there's a reason that phrase isn't woman up.
That is so true. So stoicism is like a trained male thing, and in some families for women as well. But it's stuffing or shutting down emotions instead of actually processing them and working them through, because what will people think if you actually show it or work it through?
Right. Or, I mean, wear it on your sleeve and it interrupts your life in any way. And if you're feeling something, then I have to feel it, and I don't want to feel anything, so you should probably shut down too. That's a lot of the feedback that especially men, I would think, would get from other men around them, sometimes even women around them as well.
Yeah, well, my story, I did shut down emotionally for a long time because in an abusive situation in a fostering type setup when I was 2, I would get spanked until I quit crying. You take a toddler, toddlers cry and scream and whatever.
It's what they do best.
If you're going to do harsh discipline until they quit crying, that means they've really internalized the whole thing that showing emotion causes pain. And I didn't understand that for a really long time, why I felt unsafe, why I felt like something was really, really wrong with me and I was in danger if I cried. And that wasn't due to my family. It was a situation where I ended up with other people taking care of me, where that was their, I don't know, that was their thing.
Right.
And so it taught me really...
They chose to deal with it, unfortunately.
And that taught me something very deep-seated in my identity about emotions and about expressing those emotions. And that required shutting down completely. That wasn't just stuffing emotions. That was, I can't even afford to feel them. Because if I feel and recognize the emotions tied to pain, then it's going to make the pain worse. Develops kind of a high pain tolerance.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was always told that I felt too much and I felt too deeply, and that's what it felt like to me. So I did a lot of stuffing, trying to stuff it down, stuff it down, stuff it down. But I never came to the point where I could turn it off. Maybe it's because I didn't experience the level of trauma, or maybe it's because it wasn't at a young age when I experienced my trauma. But I just stuffed. That was the only thing I knew how to do.
You were a drama queen.
I was totally a drama queen.
I was a
drama major.
You were a drama major. It really was a drama queen, for real.
That's the thing. I was around people, especially in high school and in college, in that kind of industry where that's what they do. Is there's a reason we call it drama. You know, we have to feel. We're asked to feel as actors, as you're trained through that, to feel it ourselves, to have this realism to it. So I was consistently feeling my emotions and trying to connect with those, or feeling someone else's emotions or a character's emotions.
Right, and then having to project those emotions.
Right, and it wasn't until I started coaching and working with different clients that I realized that not feeling and shutting it down entirely was even a possibility.
Yeah, very real possibility.
Yeah.
And having been one of those people,
Yeah.
It's incredible how when you start allowing the feelings to come up, it can feel overwhelming. I joke about it being like when an arm falls asleep. You know, you're sleeping, you wake up, and it's numb, you can't feel it, can't do anything
Yeah.
with it. But then when the blood comes back in and you start being able to feel it again, it hurts really badly.
Right.
Right? So then that ends up evening out. So now you have functionality and you're not in pain anymore. Everything is great. But when you're in that first waking up those emotions, waking up the feeling in your body, there can be a lot of pain associated with that. And I think a lot of people shut back down or stuff the emotions again when they start feeling that pain, because they don't realize that
It's
if you'll just
overwhelming.
work through it step by step, you can get to that more normal functionality and where you're not dealing with that pain all
And
the
it's
time.
worth it. It's worth it, but many people don't necessarily see the value in working through it immediately, because that pain is so overwhelming and huge. It seems like it's insurmountable.
And then you can have circumstances that actually force you to face the pain, and it can be a dysfunctional pain with addictions hitting critical mass, or something hitting an extreme where if you don't face it and deal with it, it's your life on the line. And at that point, sometimes we're in enough pain, the whole thing of you don't change till the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same.
Right.
Then we decide to change. But today we're talking about the fact that we need to feel our emotions for a variety of reasons that are so important for our ability to heal and be functional in a healthy way.
Absolutely. If we don't even know there's pain, if we have shut that down entirely, then we lose a whole lot of our warning system, our natural warning system that God has built us with. We're not aware that there's a problem here because that's really what pain is. There's something that's not lining up with God's word, God's creation, what he originally wanted for us. And if we're walking straight into an abusive situation, but all of our feelings are shut down, we're not going to have that warning sign of, this makes me feel uncomfortable, this might be unsafe.
Right. And I mean, when we think, oh, we should only feel good feelings, we don't realize that when we're numbing down or shutting down or stuffing the bad feelings, we're also shutting down our ability to feel any feelings. So that includes the good ones. So then you can end up going into anxiety and depression and where you've got no positive because you've shut down the positive as well with that. And the Bible talks about there being a time for everything. So in Ecclesiastes, it says there's a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. There's seasons and time frames. And sometimes those are all in a 10-minute span.
True.
In my life, sometimes it goes between those really, really fast. But
You usually have a good laugh at the end of a good cry.
Yes.
Just to kind of one more way to get that out and to relieve the stress that's coming out. But yeah, there's this balance, this idea of balance, that it's not just one all the time, but we need to have both.
Yeah, God designed us that way.
Yeah.
To actually have the whole range of emotions and feelings and not let any one part of it become exclusive because something's unhealthy and out of balance.
Right. It's impossible for us to be happy all the time. And completely joyful all the time. No, we can have joy,
The joy of the Lord, yes.
and have pain at the same time.
Yes.
And it's where it's not a situational joy. It's a deeper joy of the, as you said, the
Our
joy of
identity.
the Lord, right? And I know if I'm still safe and I know I'm still loved, then I can have joy while still experiencing pain in my circumstances.
Yeah, and I remember talking to a counselor at one point about the discrepancy between, but this situation makes me happy, but at the same time I have this trauma. My best friend just died, and I don't know how to correlate this joyful, because I was used to extremes, either shut down, don't feel anything, or else you're dealing with this massive thing. And here I was with a really good thing and a really, really painful thing, very real in my life at the same time.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I need to designate time to mourn and grieve and process the loss.
Sure.
But I also need to celebrate the joyful, exciting thing that's going on over here and give myself a chance to actually be healthy in both of these areas and work it through. That's such a weird concept when you've processed life for a long time with total shutdown.
Yeah, or expecting all of these terrible things to happen, and it overrides, the pain overrides any joy or celebration that we might have. We feel like we're wrong to celebrate if there's something painful going on. Even if it's not in our lives, if there's something painful going on for someone else too. That it's insensitive to experience that joy, but it's part of what God has given to us.
healthy and well-rounded includes processing. It includes the baby steps.
Yeah.
In a direction, in the ability to feel.
And in Nehemiah 8:10, it says, "The joy of the Lord is your strength." So that's where we're drawing our strength from, and getting the ability to process through the pain as well.
Which is huge, and we get to talk about more options with this with our coaching.
Absolutely. We do have a coaching tool that walks through some of the things that we've just spoken about. Because you know what, there are baby steps that we can take that will bring us closer to hope. And we don't, if you are someone who is shutting down emotionally, we do not expect all of these emotions to come out at once. This is not what our coaching tool is about. It's just about being aware and recognizing and understanding what the next baby step is in the process. We, again, it's just a couple worksheets. We go through the lesson, and then we ask you a few questions just to get you started on the journey, to help give you a plan to move forward into that. And even to go along with this topic, we also have a song.
Healing Begins.
Healing Begins by 10th Avenue North, which is one of my favorite bands. I enjoy them. So would you please share with us the lyrics from that?
Sure. And Healing Begins is, again, where it begins. So many times we got to start somewhere. So it says, "So you thought you had to keep this up, all the work that you do, so that we think that you're good, and you can't believe it's not enough. All the walls you built up are just glass on the outside." We've got a facade thing here. So let them fall down. There's freedom waiting in the sound when you let your walls fall to the ground. We're here now. This is where the healing begins. This is where the healing starts. When you come to where you're broken within, then the light hits the dark. The light actually meets the dark. Afraid to let your secrets out, everything that you hide can come crashing through the door now, but too scared to face all your fear, so you think you hide. Well, actually, so you hide, but you find that the shame won't disappear. So let it fall down. There's freedom waiting in the sound when you let your walls fall to the ground. We're here now. We're here now. This is where the healing begins. This is where the healing starts. When you come to where you're broken within and the light meets the dark. And it goes from there, but it is so that beginning point of letting the walls down, letting you start to feel things. That's been such a huge part of my journey, where now I can feel pain and laughter and joy and strength and sorrow and mourning, and then, work through all of these healthy.
Yeah. And in those lyrics, what's interesting to me is when I hear it, I mean, I don't know what the author interpreted, but how I interpret it is, when your walls fall to the ground and we are here now, I feel like it's Father, Son, Holy Spirit meeting you wherever you are. You let those walls down, they're here with you. They've never left you, they're not letting go. You're just allowing them to come in a little bit further.
But you can feel them and see them when you let those walls down and let that healing start. And actually, I missed a verse that says, "Sparks will fly as grace collides with the dark inside us. So please don't fight this coming light. Let this blood come over us. His blood can cover us." So there's healing in every piece of that.
There's this change that's happening. The sparks flying. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And bringing good things, sparking beginning healing, which, if we don't recognize there's a problem or pain or sorrow or any of this, there's no opportunity to change any of it, to grow through it, to heal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have a guest that
we
might
do
tell a little bit of a story.
We do. Absolutely, someone who has experienced this, and I'm so thankful that someone is here. We have a gentleman who's coming on who's actually going to really address some of this, which is so powerful, that someone who has been told not to have these emotions and not been allowed to express themselves actually has done a 180. So spiritual leader and mentor and financial advisor, Daryl Darnauer. Daryl, would you please come into our kitchen?
And Ginny's got a hand for you, I think.
I have a hand for you. Your hand, sir.
I guess I should use it for victory.
There you go. We like that.
Love
Thank
it.
you for giving me your hand.
Sit down, please. Welcome, welcome. You're an extraordinary man, Daryl, and we're happy to have you here.
It's a blessing to work through things in life still today.
Yes.
We would love to say the road ends at some point, but our journey continues.
That's right.
Right? He woke us up this morning, so he's got another piece of the journey. So tell us about how your journey began.
Well, being raised in a military family, we moved a lot. So I really didn't grow up with friends. Went to 16 schools from 1st through 12th.
Wow.
Didn't know
That's a lot.
a lot of things about my background until I was older. Didn't know my mom was parents were from Romania. Didn't know that she grew up in a Jewish home, because as we were raised in the South, she didn't want us to know that there was some persecution if you weren't of different religions, more so than others.
So already family secrets.
Family secrets, yeah. And then abuse on her part. Abused by a sibling and molested and different things. I don't know what anger that brought in her. I don't even know what psychosis. All I knew is she was mom and I loved her. But at 6 years old and 7 years old, she started kicking me out when I did something wrong. So I would sleep behind a bush, that was covered with snow and freezing, and some neighbor would take me in. But people didn't talk in those days. They just tried to help. And
So she kicked you out of the house at 6 or 7 years old overnight.
overnight, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and the pattern was, and that went on until I left home at 14. But in the process with all those moves, I learned how to break into trunks of cars. And when I grew up, everyone had a blanket in their trunk, because that's what you always kept in there for a picnic.
Sure.
And that was a blessing to me. And so I learned how to break into trunks without doing a lot of damage. I could hold a rock to that trunk and take another rock and just pop it right, and it would open. And I learned how to tie a stick to that trunk to keep it open a little bit for daylight.
We don't necessarily endorse breaking into trunks.
No,
but,
nor sleeping in them. But I would
Or
go to
sleeping
school
in
the next day. And when the light came, I would go to school. And when I'd come home the next day, my mom would just say, "How was school?" So I built this pattern of shoving things down and learning how that was what I thought was safe. But what I defined myself as was a bad boy, that I was bad and I really wasn't worth loving. And if anyone ever got to know me, they wouldn't love me either, because my mom knew me and she didn't.
Was your mom.
And she was my mom. And so I knew I wasn't worth loving. And so that was a really hard process to go through. And then finally, at their divorce, when I was 14, I got freed a little bit, in a sense, because I left home. And I went to live with grandparents who I really didn't know. And I started a new life at 14. And so that pain, plus the generation that I was brought up in, it was kids are to be seen and not heard.
Yep.
And then later on, after I got married, it came out books that were good books, but titles like Emotions, Can You Trust Them? And the answer was obviously no, and so I learned not to trust emotions, in fact, not to show emotions, in fact, live with a mask, to be strong and to be happy and to care about others and a lot of good things. But I learned the good can be the enemy of the best, because as I continued to press those things down, I entered into marriage with that game and the belief that I wasn't worth loving. And if my incredible wife knew me, she probably wouldn't love me either,
Wow. So she didn't have the opportunity to even know the real Daryl.
Right.
Until many years later, because I know that's not the person that you are today.
That's right.
The person that I know. So what changed in your story?
Well, over the 39 years of marriage, we've been to counseling 4 times. And they lasted weeks to maybe months in those first 3 times. And they were all about communication. It was, do you understand what I'm saying? Do I understand? It was very much at a thought level, but not an emotional level. Thank God. I mean, if it was emotion level, I don't know what I would have done with that. That would have been scary, because I know emotions. You're not to show them.
Right.
But then in 2010, we lived in Franklin, Tennessee, in the Nashville area. There was a horrendous flood, and over 40,000 people's homes were flooded, and we were one of them. And in that process, some things triggered. I had just lost a job with a major company, and then 2 days later we were flooded, and everything in my world was really kind of shaken. We were pretty minimalist as it was as far as possessions go, but as far as who am I and what defines me, when a job can define you or your work can define you, it really, really kind of struck me that things started to come out, things got to be exposed. And we entered into counseling, and it was called EFT. I'd never heard of that when we went to the counseling, and he said, what that stands for is emotionally focused therapy. I didn't outside, but inside I rolled my eyes several times thinking, what have I gotten into?
I thought all therapy was emotionally focused, but that's just me. So this is okay. This is interesting.
So it was very new
Good
to me. And so we read a couple books that really helped us during that process. One was Hold Me Tight by Dr. Sue Johnson, and another one was by Dr. Kurt Thompson. And he wrote a book that was called Anatomy of the Soul, and it was about the things that wire our brain and our emotions. And this was so hard to read. I still have a hard time reading it today, but it started unlocking some things and giving me freedom. And really, for the first time in my life, I felt safe. Not just safe with God, which was huge,
Right.
because I thought I was confident he knew me. I couldn't hide from him, but I could be safe with my wife. And
She was a woman, like your mother had been.
very much. And she never was like my mother,
Right.
but she was the image of a mother to my children.
Sure.
And I could still have the same fear if she ever really knew me, would she love me?
She might kick you out.
She might
like
kick me out.
seriously, and in a marriage that can be devastating. I'd lose this relationship if the real me came.
Well, I don't know if she ever could kick me out,
I don't
not my
think she
wife. But what the opposite happened. What happened when there was conflict? I've never thought of being physical, although I was physically abused. I never thought about shaking my wife or hitting my wife. Never crossed my mind. What I would do is I'd flee, and I'd flee for hours or sometimes even 2 or 3 days at a time.
You'd kick yourself out.
I'd kick myself out.
Wow.
And what happened when I came back was the same thing that happened with my mom. When I come back, my mom would say, "How was school today?" My wife was scared to death. She didn't know if I was dead or alive. And when I'd come back, she would just say, "How are you?" hoping not to trigger anything.
Right.
And so we were really lived in this fear of each other, unsafe relationship. So the flood triggered, as in the Bible, the flood triggered a lot of good things, right? Hope,
Yeah.
promise. And in that flood and going to that counseling, which lasted 2.5 years, I was almost afraid to let it go.
That sounds right.
That sounds right.
Yeah. Weeks or
Couple
months.
weeks here or there.
Not for
Yeah,
all the
no.
stuff I had to unpack,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not all the stuff I had to address.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was really a freeing experience.
Yeah. So you found it was worth it then.
Totally worth it. And it became part of our story to encourage others, don't think you can do it alone. Don't pretend church. Don't wear the masks. I mean, I go to leadership meetings at church and everybody's like, "How are you? How's your small group going?" and all this. I say, well, for us, we had to go to some counseling for our marriage, for our lives. And people are like,
You're admitting it?
Yeah.
How can you admit this?
well, it makes other people uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
Not about just your story, but maybe they need to do something.
Right. It's shining a light
Yeah,
on,
yeah.
there was a problem and we got help, and then, oh no. For them, it shines a light into their life just a little bit. So yeah, they can feel uncomfortable. Absolutely.
And that's why we do the show, is actually shedding that same light and saying through your story, through my story, through Ginny's story, through all of our stories, there's that place where we have seen the truth, how that comes in and changes things. I mean, I had several years of counseling in one state and several more in a different state, and processing different parts of brokenness in my story that was young, was intense, was, all of these cycles and patterns. But if we shut down like you did, like I did, like we've all done stuffing or shutting down or whatever our
Right.
version of it is when there's trauma or brokenness there, then we're not healing. And we're actually projecting more of that shutting down and facade-oriented living to everybody around us. Like everyone needs to have a facade. How come your facade isn't as good as it should be? Like, wait a second.
More
need to
not
start
good enough,
being-
not good enough, right?
Yeah, we need to start being real. And you found life, you found healing, you found like tell us more of the redemptive side, because I know you do really reach out and help a lot of people.
Yeah, well, this again, we prayed before we started this that God would bring out things that maybe weren't on our agenda or script or whatever. But I trigger back to when I was in my early 20s and I was on staff with a full-time ministry in Southern California, and we had devotions once a week, and I was headed up the hill to the devotional, and I was running a little late, and all of a sudden I saw many people ahead of me, but one girl who was struggling up the hill, physically struggling, looked like she was in pain. I thought maybe she had fallen or something. "Are you okay?" "Oh, I'm fine. I'm 23, but I've had 18 back surgeries, so I just live with a lot of physical pain." And it was like the Holy Spirit just urged me it was okay to slow down and just walk with her. And I thought, be available to her, but it was really for me. And she said, what God has brought through all this pain is a verse out of 2 Corinthians 1, 3 through 5. And I've memorized part of it, but I shared it, I captured it here, but it says, "Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and God of all comfort, who comforts us in our affliction, so that we may be able to comfort those who are in any affliction or every affliction with the comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by God. For just as the sufferings of Christ are ours in abundance, so also our comfort is abundant through Christ." And I was just, I didn't want to go to the devotions. This is the devotions. This is what God wanted to speak to me that day. And I said, He must have opened so many doors for you to have a ministry through your pain. And she says, I thought it would be to other people who have physical pain. But He keeps on bringing people to me who have emotional pain.
Yeah.
And I just didn't even know what was going on. Because it wasn't until years later that I could get off the mask and address it. But I just started weeping uncontrollably. And she wanted to console me.
Right.
And I wondered for years what was going on.
Right.
Because I knew I was a bad person already, because I had been told and validated that I was bad and not worth loving.
Right.
And I couldn't open that up to anyone. If everyone knew I was bad, no one would like me.
Right.
And it wasn't until, again, that counseling in 2010 that went on for 2.5 years, I could start unpacking emotions and be safe.
Wow.
But you had a woman telling you it was okay to be in pain.
Yeah.
It was okay to admit it. And that would go back to being a trigger to the relationship with your mom. Just like in places that we've walked through, it's been God bringing somebody into our life that represents a place of brokenness.
Yeah.
And it touches a place deep inside of you that you're not necessarily even aware of, and in some cases you're not getting help for it for years afterwards.
Right.
But where God's touching on that spot for you to realize, wait a second, there's something here. And I love the fact that because you've walked through this, you're able to show compassion to people who've been through hurting and rejection and abuse and different pieces at a level that somebody who hasn't walked through that process, they can't. A facade can't help anybody.
Yeah.
You can say all kinds of good things.
Absolutely. And you're great at slowing down. I love that, the slowing down to meet people where they're at. And you did it physically that day, but she was doing it emotionally for you as well.
Yeah.
So
That makes him
symmetry, which
That makes you our ex-victim.
our ex-victim of the week. We want to celebrate you and all that you've been through and all of the healing that's happened in your life.
And you don't have to wear a pink shirt that says ex-victim like mine.
I haven't gotten that touch with myself. Let's do that. No
Not going to make you do that. But we do have this as a gift for your wife.
Oh, thank you.
Because
Thank you.
it's the symbol for an ex-victim with the flower and blooming. And then, of
necklace,
course,
clearly.
a necklace, and then chocolates and tissues, because emotions are a good thing. So real men do cry.
Real men eat chocolate too.
Yes, and need tissues sometimes. And we talk about using that fertilizer from our past, yours or ours, and
Or anyone else's.
or anyone else's, and using it so that we can actually take that and bloom today.
A free PDF copy of the Bloom in the Dark book and a full list of Bloom Today's coaching tools can be found on bloomtodaytv.com. Then visit Bloom Today's Facebook group for deeper conversation.